In this video, you're going to set up a CSS reset for our styles. A CSS reset just makes sure that all browsers are starting from the same place. So each browser has their own set of default styles. And if they're not all starting from the same place, they're going to look a little different when we actually apply our styles. So not using a reset is equivalent to giving two of your friends directions to your house. The only problem is the directions are the same, but they're starting from different locations. So in the end of the day, they don't get to your house, even though they follow the correct instructions. They make a left at the first light they see. The problem is that first light is different. We see this exact same problem when styling in browsers. All browsers, Safari, Firefox, Chrome, IE, they have a default set of styles. If we don't reset them, we're essentially building on things that are different. And at the end of the day, the browsers are going to look slightly off. To fix that, we just use a reset. Now, resets usually contain a ton of code, so we're not going to be writing our own. There are great libraries out there that contain resets for all sorts of weird situations. So they handle all of the edge cases for us, and we don't have to worry about that sort of thing. To explore the library that we're going to be using, we can head over to Google. This one is called Normalize CSS. They have their own website. You can head over there to take a look at exactly what it does, but essentially the only thing here is the installation instructions. So we're going to go ahead and install this, include it into our app, and see how that changes the output in the browser. Step one is to actually add this over inside of the terminal. Let's shut down the dev server and use yarn add to add this one. It's called normalize.css, and we're going to grab the most recent version that is 7.0.0. We're going to add it in, and the only thing we need to do in order to use the reset code is to import it. So over inside of the browser, we can watch these change as we change our application code. Now we're going to import it just like we've imported our code over here. Right above our styles file, we are going to use import. And we're going to grab a CSS file from the normalize CSS directory. We could actually go into that folder if we wanted to. It lives in node modules. You just got to scroll down through a ton of directories, our dependencies, their dependencies, their dependencies, 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 and eventually you're going to get to N, and that is where normalize lives. So right here, we have normalize. We have a bunch of packages related to it. We're looking for normalize.css. In there, we have the one CSS file we want to load in. To import that, it would be normalize.css, that's the module name, / the file name, which is just the same thing. Normalize.css. Now, if we try to run this, it's actually going to crash our program. Why? It's going to crash our program because we recently removed the ability to support regular CSS files. Remember, we changed things up over inside of the Webpack config file. We now just look for the .scss extension. We can actually go ahead and fix that by tossing a question mark right here. That's going to make the S optional. So this will allow us to support CSS files and SCSS files. Now I can go ahead and save the Webpack config file, close that down, and we can restart the dev server and see what we get over in the browser. I'm going to head back into the terminal, clear the output, and we'll use yarn run dev server once again. Once the dev server is up and running, we'll be able to view the output of our app over in Chrome. And what do we get? We get an application that looks different, but still very similar. So what exactly has changed? Well, all browsers are now working off of that same base. So when we pull this up in Firefox or IE, or in this case, Safari or Chrome, we're going to be able to see the exact same stuff. We've removed a lot of those built-in styles, for example, how each browser chooses to style their own buttons, or how the operating system chooses to style those things. So what does this mean for us? This means we can now continue to build, writing our own styles, knowing that they're going to work in a cross-browser setting, which is something you definitely want to keep in mind, as not all users are using the same OS and not all users are using the same browser. There's nothing more to this one. That is it. Let's take just 5 seconds to recap. In this one, we made sure all browsers start from the exact same place. We did that by adding in a CSS reset. This contains a ton of code that starts all of the elements in all browsers off with the exact same styles. That means when we build on those styles, we're building on the same base, and that's going to give us a nice cross-browser friendly web app. We're going to continue writing our own styles in the next video, so stay tuned. I'll see you then.